Hey everyone, it's Blake. Welcome in to episode number 5 of our AEW 2022 save in TEW 2020. This is Dynamite for week 3 in June, and then we'll have Rampage coming up after this. And our next video, of course, will be our special Road Rager event, which, as I mentioned before, if you just now jumped into the series, well, go back, start from the beginning. That way you keep up with the storylines. But we're doing some of these special events, which usually are made for Dynamite. We're going to do those on separate days, so a lot of those will fall on Saturdays. That's kind of what we're doing here for this week. So we'll have Dynamite, then we'll have Rampage, and then on Saturday, week 3, we'll have Road Rager. So that's kind of how we're setting everything up. But speaking of Road Rager, a lot to get to and some stuff to add to that card in this particular episode of Dynamite. So let's jump in. Start with the pre-show here. Butcher and the Blade get the win over the Seidel brothers. 801-56 here for this one. This is, you guys are used to it now. This is my usual pre-show tag team match because we have so many tag teams, and at this point, not everyone's gonna have a storyline. I think we've all kind of understood that. So Butcher and the Blade get a win here on the pre-show. Good chemistry together. Not a bad match either. 56 for this one. So a win for the Butcher and the Blade. Now we start things off on the episode of Dynamite. And yes, I know this got a very lower rating than you would expect for CM Punk and Malakai Black, but this is a segment we wanted to add in as essentially a video package looking at the recent events that have taken place. Of course, that all started on our first episode of Dynamite with CM Punk mysteriously attacked after a lights out sort of segment, if you will, and that led to Punk pointing the finger to Malakai Black, even though Black has denied it and said that he is innocent until proven guilty. Punk continues to kind of go after Malakai Black. We had a big brawl last week involving Punk and FTR against the House of Black. So a lot's been going on here, and this is kind of a recap of everything that's taken place, but certainly more to come with that. Match-wise, we start things off with a squash, as it's Miro getting the win over Colt Cabana, 5-18, game over. It was game over for Colt Cabana, 66. So again, essentially a squash match here. Not a whole lot other to add from that. I mean, you got a lot of well executed squash. That's what we're going for. Which Miro returns last week, and we saw him go after Orange Cassidy and Trent basically, and say that he was tired of sitting around. He wanted the proper respect. Basically, he wants championships, and he wants to be back in that picture. And so Miro, very angry. That's kind of what we've been playing up here. And speaking of that, Miro is angry, and the storyline has started because in a nice segment here, 69, it is announced that at Road Rager on Saturday, Miro will go one-on-one with Orange Cassidy. So after that attack last week, it's set where we will have Miro and Orange. And I know, again, I kind of thought back, I was like, I know this feud's happened before, like in reality, but again, this is our series, and we're kind of setting up a lot of storylines the way we need to set them up, and this is just one that I think is interesting. So with Miro and Orange Cassidy should be a match that I would think does well because both guys are pretty popular. So there's another big match added to the Road Rager card. And here we go, match-wise. Swerve Strickland makes his debut, in our series at least, as he gets the win over Isaiah Cassidy, 7-07 with the Swerve Stomp. And we debut Swerve's gimmick here. Cocky gets a very good rating, so that's good on that. So that's good to know. Again, you're going to see some of these thrown in. Just kind of like last week, Keith Lee got a win over Aaron Solo. Now Swerve gets a win over Isaiah Cassidy. There's only so many storylines we're going to be able to push at once. And I think rather than just pushing a million and everything necessarily having a storyline, sometimes we're just going to have some matches. And, it's just to kind of help get people over. And that's kind of what I'm aiming for here, knowing that we only have 3 hours of television to use. So some things are just going to be, okay, this guy gets a win. And that will maybe boost his popularity a little bit, give him a little momentum. But other than that, I mean, I just think tying everything into a storyline with this big of a roster, even though we did set up our developmental, which we'll get to after the shows. But again, that's just the way I'm going to kind of approach it, because that's, to me, I was like, I just don't think there's going to be a way to tie in something necessarily to everything in each match. But as you know, if you watch my other WWE one, there's always something at play. There's always a story somewhere. It's just sometimes it can take a while to get there. So 64 on this one. Swerve gets the win. And it is Tony Schiavone with Chris Statlander who responds to Mercedes Martinez, which if you watched Rampage, it was Mercedes Martinez after a win over Sky Blue calling out Statlander, saying that she had watched her the previous week and, she wants to test herself against Statlander. And Statlander says, okay, meet her on Rampage. So that could be set up officially there as Statlander tells Mercedes Martinez, you know what, you want a piece of me? Go ahead. Meet me on Rampage. I'll be there. So there we go. So perhaps that is set up as something to certainly keep an eye on heading into Rampage. 55 for this one. Oh my God, this is awful. It's 34 in a terrible match here. Jade and Athena, our TBS Championship match, which, my goodness, if you thought there's going to be a rematch with this one, nope, not going to happen because this was brutal. 940, Jade gets the win. Probably a little long, maybe, for a Jade match, given her experience. But, I mean, she has to get experience somehow, right? Like, the only way for her to add experience is by wrestling more. But Jade gets defense number 5 here. Clearly, chemistry, terrible chemistry between these two. That was a big reason for this 34. And, I mean, just look at these in-ring performances. 33 and 29. That is purely just brutal. I mean, we didn't really do anything. We didn't even did storytelling. Like, I know that holds back a little bit. We tried to protect Jade, given her, in-ring skills. But, I mean, look at this. This is a pretty long list of penalties here. Inexperience, poor psychology, Athena, holding back, inconsistency, low morale, awful gimmick, which I'm sure Athena had low morale. I didn't check it. I'm sure it's from the awful gimmick. We know that plays into it sometimes. So my guess is sure morale was down just because her gimmick did not work well, and we get a penalty for worker chemistry. So this match was a total disaster across the board. But Jade is still the champion, and luckily, at least in my creative plans, I have no plans to return to this. So that's good. Now seeing this, I'm like, thank goodness I didn't book some big long 3-month story arc between these two because there's no way we're returning to this match. So 34, Jade gets the win, and really this is just a setup. Stokely Hathaway once again pushing that Jade is unbeatable and she will take on all comers. So he grabs the microphone after the match and he kind of pushes Jade here as once again just unbeatable and all that. So I'm not just going to be pushing Athena aside, but if you think I'm going to keep Athena in this program with Jade Cargill, it ain't happening because clearly these two cannot work together. So luckily there's something else I have in mind for Jade Cargill moving forward. 49 for this one. And it is backstage. We see Taz, and he is with his guys, Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, officially the top contenders for the tag team titles, and they will face off against Jurassic Express at Road Rager on Saturday. And it is Taz telling Christian to have his guys ready because, as he's seen, Starks and Hobbs, they are on a mission, and they have been taking out anyone and everyone, and Taz says they are going to be the next tag team champions. It's basically just Taz pushing his guys here ahead of this big championship match they're going to have on Saturday. And we transition from that into Christian, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus, who are watching this and see this promo from Taz. And Christian starts to motivate Jungle Boy, and he's really just pushing him hard, saying, hey, we're going to be ready. Don't listen to Taz. I've got you guys ready. And just like I said on Rampage, I know that Starks and Hobbs are going to be watching this match that I've signed for you because I've got you a great opponent. And Jungle Boy is just kind of, preparing for his match, and Luchasaurus is there just standing there looking like a dinosaur. Christian just says, look, I do. I have you a great opponent. And Jungle Boy is just like, okay, well, who is it? Who is my opponent? And Christian says, I'll tell you this. He's someone that's going to get you ready for being in the ring with Powerhouse Hobbs. And Jungle Boy is just, again, who are you talking about? And Christian's just reeling off all these accolades of this guy until finally he says he's got all the, great accolades, but he also has a great last name. And that's when Jungle Boy just kind of stops and realizes what he means. And Christian says, I've got you an opponent, and it's going to be Brian Cage. out there going up against you tonight. And Jungle Boy is just kind of, you can tell he's just hesitating. He's like, wait a second, I got to go up against this big, strong guy in Brian Cage before this big championship match on Saturday? And Christian says, don't worry about it. You'll be ready. We're going to get you ready out there. And then Christian walks off, and Jungle Boy is just kind of sitting there shaking his head. So more at play there, as you would guess. 51 on this, but that is going to lead us into our match, which does pretty well. 67 here on this one. But it is Jungle Boy with the flash pinfall here. We did do Still the Show, and we did do flash pinfall. Getting the win over Brian Cage. So he manages to do the quick roll up, and he rolls up Brian Cage for the win in a victory here. So 67, not a pretty good match. Like I said, I think that was, we did Still the Show. I think these are two guys with pretty good skills in the ring. So I think it works out well. But as you know, there's a lot more with this story of Christian kind of putting Jungle Boy in this match against a guy like Brian Cage, who, could destroy someone. And if you look at it visually, we know there's kind of a big difference in Jungle Boy and Brian Cage. So more at play there, and we'll see how that plays out moving forward. But Jungle Boy with the win, somehow, some way. We're kind of pushing that as how did he do it? Well, he made it work with a quick roll-up to get the win. And it is Tony Schiavone now with Andrade. And Tony wants an explanation from Andrade. Why did he and Rush attack the Lucha Brothers? And basically, Tony tells him, you screwed those guys out of their championship match. And Andrade, tells Tony to hush. There's no guarantee that the Lucha Brothers would have won that match. But Andrade just says that they have unfinished business with Penta and Phoenix, and they leave it at that. So, of course, that's what happened. We saw Andrade and Rush attack the Lucha Brothers before their match against Starks and Hobbs last week for, the official number one contendership. And, of course, that played into the finish with Starks and Hobbs just being too much. With Penta taken out, Phoenix was, basically beaten down, and they had no chance. So, Andrade, unfinished business. What is that unfinished business? We'll find out soon enough. 60 for this one. And it is Dan Lambert we see backstage, and he announces that he signed a contract for Wardlow to take on Ethan Page on Rampage. What a kind of word that is. Page on Rampage. So there you go. That's how we're pushing this. It's going to be Wardlow taking on Ethan Page on Rampage ahead of the big TNT title match on Saturday at Road Rager, with Wardlow challenging Scorpio Sky. And Lambert says that Page is going to soften Wardlow up a bit and get him ready for Scorpio Sky. So, your usual heel manager here, finding a way to add in a match along the way for another one of his, clients before the big championship match. So that's kind of how we're setting it up here. So there's a big match official, Wardlow versus Ethan Page for Rampage. 47 for this one. And again, it's just not a lot of overness in here. And so for everything we try, it's just, there's not a lot of overness with these three in terms of the ratings. And things pick up big time, though, on the next one, because we see Hangman Page walking to the ring. Of course, it was announced on Rampage that Hangman would be back for the first time since losing his title at Double or Nothing. And we see Hangman making his way to the ring. And who do we see other than CM Punk, who walks up to Hangman Page, and the visual of these two just staring each other down. Punk with the championship on the shoulder. 88. So a great segment here. CM Punk invents a new catchphrase. Everyone, this is just great stuff across the board. And Punk, just kind of looks at Page, and he says, maybe you're the guy I'm looking for. I did take this championship from you. And Punk says, if there's anyone who has, the motivation to come out and attack me in that sort of fashion, he says, maybe it's you, Hangman. Maybe you were so upset that I beat you in the middle of the ring, 1, 2, 3, at Double or Nothing, that you decided to take matters into your own hands. And so it's just Punk just kind of almost questioning Hangman here, and Hangman just staying sort of stoic. He's just standing there looking at Punk, and Hangman just looks at the championship as Punk is just continuing to talk to him and sort of question him. Page not saying a whole lot, and Hangman just keeps looking at the title. And then he just nods at Punk, and he just walks off and heads towards the ring. So no acknowledgement from Hangman here, but he certainly kept his eyes on that championship And so, another little tease. What's going on here? Everything is just kind of up in flux. I mean, what is happening right now? But Page makes his way to the ring because he does have a match, and it's a really good one, a 73 here against Billy Gunn, as Hangman gets to win 11:51. Buckshot Lariat does it. Great in-ring performance from Hangman, 80. He's still getting the bonus from the groundswell of public support, so that's going to continue to help us ratings-wise, having that. But Hangman, just a nice win here, and this was just kind of to set up his return after, that match at Double or Nothing. And speaking of, afterwards, it is Hangman grabbing the microphone, and he says, first things first, I didn't attack CM Punk. He says, if I wanted my title back, I'd beat CM Punk to get it. And that's what he says. He says, the reason why I'm just staring at that championship is because it was so close to me, and I know that I had it for so long, that the more I stared at it back there, the more I realized I need that title back. And Hangman says he won't do it the way whoever attacked CM Punk did it. He'll do it by beating Punk in the middle of the ring to regain his championship. So a big-time sort of babyface promo here from Page, saying, look, if anyone thought that I'm the guy who attacked Punk, it wasn't me. But I will tell you that I do want a piece of Punk because I want my title back. So 78 here for Hangman, and we'll see what's to come with him moving forward. And then it is Tony, who's just everywhere. He is the Pat McAfee of our WWE save. If you have been watching that, we have McAfee everywhere. But Tony's kind of in this role here. And it is he's backstage with his best bud, Britt Baker. And it is Baker continuing to run down Thunder Rosa as she's continued to do, saying, talk about people who wanting their title back. And you see kind of the back-to-back segments here. That's the reason we did that. Baker wants her title back, just like Hangman wants his back. And Baker continuing to run down Thunder Rosa. And Tony's just sitting there, the usual, just kind of rolling his eyes. And all these just kind of knocks that Baker's taking at Thunder Rosa. And then, right as Baker just continues to go on and on and on, Tony just kind of holds his ear and says, hold on a second, wait just a second, Britt. I've received word that we're going to have an AEW Women's Championship match next week on Dynamite. And Shivani says that, and Britt, kind of shaking her head going, finally, thank goodness that I am going to get the championship that I deserve back. And Britt walks off and says, thank you, Tony. We appreciate it. But hold on, Tony says, hold on, Britt. Wait a second. There's going to be a championship match. Thunder Rosa is going to defend her title. But she's going to do it against Jamie Hayter. And Hayter just kind of looks over at Tony, and she's sort of shocked and surprised. Meanwhile, Baker looks over, and she's just as shocked, wondering, wait a second, why is Jamie Hayter getting this title shot? And Baker's just going off. She's not happy about this. And Hayter, you can kind of see as Baker is just kind of, going off on Shivani, Hayter just sort of, there's that tiny little smile there. And then finally, Britt turns back to Hayter, and she's just all, kind of just back to a normal face. And she's not really saying a whole lot. And so we end it there with Shivani announcing that next week it's going to be Thunder Rosa versus Jamie Hayter for the AEW Women's Championship. And clearly a very unhappy Britt Baker. What does this mean for her? And, hey, Jamie Hayter's got a shot at the title. Let's see what happens. 55 on this one. And then backstage, once again, just as we had last week, Adam Cole reiterating his message for them to be elite, as that's been the message he's been pushing, talking about, the ups and downs that some of these guys have had recently. But he once again notes that, I just want to make sure everyone's clear here. Like, I won the Owen Hart Cup. Kyle O'Reilly's been on a roll. I know Fish ran into some trouble last week against Danielson. And the Bucks, look, I know you guys are going to get back on track tonight against Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta, our big main event. And Cole just reiterates, I just want to keep saying to you guys, we have to be elite. And that means winning our matches and doing, showing what we can do to be the best. The Young Bucks, you have to get those tag team titles back. And then, as he says that, O'Reilly and Fish kind of look at him saying, what about us? He's like, well, you guys can, also have a shot at the tag team titles. Or, he says, Kyle O'Reilly, you can go after the TNT title. Bobby Fish, the same with you. And then he says, by winning the Owen Hart Cup, I'm going to get my shot at CM Punk. but I'm not going to do it, the way everyone else has done it. I'm not going to go in and attack CM Punk. I'm just going to go out and show him that I'm a better wrestler than he is. So this is kind of Cole, once again, kind of giving his speech here of making sure that his group is super elite, and that is what he's aiming for. So 63 on that, and so that's kind of, your setup here. But as these guys walk off, the Young Bucks walk off to get ready for their match. In the main event, O'Reilly and Fish, they head out. Here comes Bryan Danielson and William Regal. And it is Regal and Danielson coming in to interrupt Adam Cole. And Regal kind of just standing there, soaking in the moment here. Of course, the history between these two. Regal tells Cole, listen, pal, there's only one way for you to be elite. And Regal just stops talking, looks over at Bryan Danielson, and Danielson's just kind of smiling a little bit there, and Cole kind of understanding what Regal is hinting at here. And, Cole just kind of shakes his head and walks off. So a little tease here for perhaps something to come. But there you go. Regal kind of setting that up. And now we are officially set for our big main event. Jon Moxley and Wheeler Yuta taking on the Young Bucks. 68 here for this segment. And our main event, a good one, 81 here, so great stuff. Which I would expect when you consider some of the parties involved here. But an 81, however, it is Moxley and Wheeler Yuta getting the win over the Young Bucks. We go 15-24 here. Moxley pins Matt Jackson with the Death Rider. Of course, Wheeler, the weak link at a 55, but still, if you compare that to the TBS title match, we'll take a 55 for that. Moxley with the best. Nick off his game a little bit here, but, we see all the chemistry. Wheeler Yuta getting the bump from being the flavor of the month. So we did. We set it up as still the show. A lot of stuff, just kind of worked out really well here to get an 81. That's going to boost Wheeler's popularity a bit. The bigger story is the fact that the Young Bucks get beat here as Moxley and Yuta get the win over the Bucks. And given everything we just kind of saw from the backstage promo segments and all that, what does that mean? What's Adam Cole going to think about this? What does this mean for kind of Moxley and Wheeler Yuta moving forward? And some of the other teases that we made with everything there. So a big tag team match delivers a huge main event, 81 here for this one. But we're not done with this episode because... Oh, hold on a second. Arn's got something to say for starters. Okay, so Matt Jackson, a new high spot. I'm shocked that the Young Bucks debuted a new spectacular high spot. And now being able to help with his psychology. Okay, well, that's good. I appreciate it, Arn. Good to know. So that's good to know on that. So there you go. All right, Mr. 100 is back. CM Punk. And yes, finally, I know someone had mentioned in the comments about, I'm trying to remember. I know it was like, how to set it up to get a 100 with CM Punk, like in the ratings. And I keep saying, like, my problem is usually, like, I just don't have the minutes to put into this, but I managed to give CM Punk a little more time here, and of course that's going to get him a 100 on the microphone. So that worked out really well, and we do get that here as Punk comes out and says, he's going to keep coming out until he gets to the bottom of this. But Punk says he knows that, he already thinks he's gotten to the bottom of this. He sees Malakai Black as someone who, likes to just play around with words and doesn't really like to say anything, and that he's not going to officially just deny that he did this. So Punk says that in his world, he's not innocent. He sees Malakai Black as guilty until he's been proven innocent. So it's kind of Punk changing turning the tables here a bit on Malakai. And he says that, while all that's in play, it seems like the House of Black wants a fight. And he says, FTR, not here tonight. Punk says, I'm just going to be honest with you. They're not here tonight. So if you guys want to come out, House of Black, and you want to, take care of business, come on out. Like, I'll face you 1-on-3. And that kind of leads to Punk just getting a little bit stirred up here. Like, you can tell Punk's ready for a fight. And so we get a 100, a perfect rating here. Good stuff. And then the lights go out, and in the ring is Malakai Black. So we're playing that up again. Black doesn't just make an entrance here. Like, the lights go out again, and it is Malakai Black standing in front of CM Punk. So once again, similar fashion to how things happen with the attack. Lights go out, boom. But this time, it's Black just simply standing in front of CM Punk, and he arrives with a message for our AEW champion And Black says, I have a proposition for you. If you are, you can believe what you want at this point, but he says, I'm going to turn this into, favor for me. And that's why he says, if you want to keep playing this game, if you want to fight, he says, meet the House of Black at Road Rager, and we will give you a fight. So Black kind of setting up a match here to say, we'll give you a fight. And that's when Black sort of says, but CM Punk, if you want to raise the stakes, which we like to do, in the House of Black, because the house always wins, we beat you at Road Rager. I want my shot at the AEW World Championship. So Punk just, sits there. He's just staring at Malakai Black, just looks at him, says, all right. He says, you're on. Me, Dax Harwood, Cash Wheeler, we'll be at Road Rager, and we're going to beat your asses. And I'm going to show you that, for anyone who wants to try to attack me, there will be consequences. So it's kind of CM Punk kind of coming back with force here to saying, hey, we'll beat you at Road Rager, and then if anyone else wants to try what you've tried by attacking me and all of this, I'm going to show you what you get. So Punk accepts the challenge, and we have a big match, which will be our main event for Road Rager, CM Punk and FTR going up against the House of Black. So that's your big setup for Saturday's match there in the main event. So that should be very interesting to see how that plays out. So in 82, here for this, we finish up the show. 83, another great show, certainly built around the kind of our main event with an 81. The Punk segment here does really well. So we get an 83 on that. And now we get ready for what officially will be the go-home show before the Road Rager event on Saturday. And that's going to be, our AEW Rampage. And let's go ahead and jump into that. All right, Rampage. We start pre-show. Frankie Kazarian gets the win over Tony Nese, 753. 53 match here. Again, just sort of a match to get people on the show and involved. And we get Kazarian a nice win here on the pre-show. Now, we jump into the main show, and we start off with, wow, this exceeded expectations. I thought this would just be sort of I don't want to say a throwaway tag team match, but my goodness, a 72 here, as it is Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish getting the win over Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, 12-27. O'Reilly pins Uno with the Brainbuster, and wow, this was way better than I probably would have expected because, again, overness-wise, these guys are in the 50s. Grayson and Uno are in the low 40s, I think, or Uno is in the low 40s. He's our star of our Ohio Valley Wrestling, our developmental promotion, 72. So, yeah, this was great. But, I mean, the bonuses on the tag team specialist, I did do still the show, and I think the reason was, you looked at some of these guys' stats, and they were really good. So this was very nice. I was not expecting this to be as high, but a lot of good stuff here. And, coming off of Dynamite, it just gives these two who were not on the show a victory. And as you're kind of seeing the theme play out here, and we'll get more into it with the story of, Adam Cole wanting these guys to be elite. And the Young Bucks coming off a loss on Dynamite. Red Dragon gets the win on Rampage. What does that mean moving forward? A great match here to start things off. In hindsight, this should have been the main event because, yeah, this is going to get the best rating. I can guarantee you that on the show. All right, Statlander coming off of that. Remember, we on Dynamite, it was Statlander responding to Mercedes Martinez, told Mercedes to meet her here. Statlander says she's been looking around. Where is she? She doesn't see Mercedes Martinez. She's here, came here for a match to have a fight, but she doesn't see her. And Shivani, just kind of saying, I haven't seen her all day. I have no idea. I thought she would be here, but she's not. And, Statlander's just kind of just accepted, that Mercedes Martinez is not here. And then this gets a 55 from out of nowhere. It is Mercedes Martinez who comes in and has attacked Chris Statlander from behind, throwing her into the equipment backstage. We've got pipes and all sorts of stuff just flying everywhere as Statlander's been thrown into these equipment. 49 here, so not a great segment, but again, a lot of this overness-wise. Mercedes, Statlander still needs to get a little bit more over. But that is kind of your setup here. And just as a teaser, you will get this match soon, and we will find out, soon enough when this match is going to happen. But Mercedes with sort of this sneak attack on Statlander here. when Statlander was expecting, to have a match tonight. Clearly, that's not going to happen now with Mercedes attacking her and throwing her into the equipment. All right, speaking of a women's match, it is Ruby Soho getting the win over Emi Sakura, 6:53. 53 match here again, so good chemistry from the announcers, no surprise there. Sakura getting better at her gimmick, but again, that's another one that I'll take as a 53. Ruby is someone I know not really in a storyline at the moment, but we do have plans for her in the future. So another situation where we just get someone on the card, give her a nice win, and gets a little boost of momentum there for her. So Ruby Soho victorious on Rampage. And then we see a promo from Eddie Kingston, who, last week we saw him beat up Daniel Garcia and get the win there in that match with Jericho. Some botched interference from Chris Jericho. And Kingston makes it clear, you know what? I'm ready for another fight. So Jericho, send me someone else. Because he knows, he says, Jericho, I know it's not going to be you because you're too scared to fight me. So he wants Jericho to send him someone else from the Jericho Appreciation Society. So, what's going to be next for Eddie Kingston? Clearly still has his sights set on taking out the Jericho Appreciation Society, and Kingston wants to know, who's next? Send me someone else, Jericho. I'm ready. So just, a nice promo here from Eddie Kingston, 67, and certainly more to come between that feud involving that group there. So, all right, and then we get ready for another match as it is Shivani interviewing Jay Lethal, who's going to go one-on-one with Roosh here on Rampage. And Jay says, hey, I know what it takes to beat Roosh. We have history going back to, our Ring of Honor days and the different matches we've had and all this other stuff. And Lethal says, I understand what I need to do. And he says, I also understand that Andrade will be near. And Jay says, I'm ready. If Andrade decides to get involved, I am ready, for a match here, and I will beat Roosh. That's basically what he's saying. So just as a note, Jay, the way he started here, Jay is listed as a babyface, so I know kind of in reality where things are now, he's a heel, but when I kind of tweaked the mod and everything, he was still a babyface, so we left him as that. So that is your setup here, Jay Lethal versus Roosh, 46 for this segment, and the match, I would hope, gets a lot better, and it does, as a 64. So Roosh gets the win over Jay Lethal, 11:40, and again, that's another one. I think we did steal a show just because, look, you got good workers in the ring, and I kind of expected them to have a good match, and they did here. So 64 for this one, and playing into Roosh. This is sort of his big, debut match, essentially singles match. We put him up against someone that he's familiar with, and Jay Lethal, and he gets the win here on Rampage to now kind of move forward with what we have going on with Andrade and Roosh and the Lucha Brothers. So 64, nice match here. I am certainly pleased with this one as well. It's another one that probably could have main evented over what we're going to have in the main event. So, and then we get an announcement that next week on Dynamite, the return, Darby Allin and Sting, they will be in action on next week's show. So you kind of see how I'm doing this so far, and I'll be honest with you, like I'm still sort of in a feeling out period of trying to figure out how to structure all this. I'm completely, brutally honest with you. Like, there are things that I'm still trying to work in, and how do we get everyone involved, get everyone on the show? I have some ideas, but right now we're just kind of filtering people in and out just to kind of keep things, fresh. But there are some ideas I'm working with. Some of them kind of drastic ideas for how we kind of structure our roster, knowing, again, we just built our developmental, but there are still some ways that I want to try to play around with in terms of getting a lot of people exposure on Dynamite and Rampage. So there are some ideas, and again, that could be a drastic change at some point. But for now, Darby, Sting, we haven't seen them thus far in our series. They'll be in action on Dynamite. 67 for this one. And that's going to set up our main event, which is Wardlow, of course, as we know, going up against Ethan Page after Lambert said that he had signed the contract for Page to take on Wardlow ahead of Road Rager on Saturday, with Wardlow challenging Scorpio Sky. So we get a video package here just kind of looking at Wardlow's rise to this point and, getting the opportunity to have a championship match against Sky. We're going to handle our changes here, and let's see. It's going to be set up for the change of the gimmick. We're going to change this from Bodyguard, which is very good, to Badass. The reason why is because we looked at it, Bodyguard was not fit for a babyface. So rather than getting penalized with that, I'm going to go ahead and change it, even though it is a very good gimmick. We're going to change it here and see how it works. So yes, it worked very well. We get great. So that is perfect, and that's great to know, because certainly we have plans for Wardlow. And so yes, this is a beautiful thing to see that this now gets a great gimmick. So 56, and that leads us into our main event. And well, if you had your money on Ethan Page, I'm sorry, because he's not winning this one. As it's actually better than I would have thought, honestly. Wardlow gets the win over Ethan Page, 8:04. We get some accidental interference from Scorpio Sky, trying to maybe get a few underhanded tactics in on Wardlow before the championship match at Road Rager. Does not work, and it is Wardlow getting the win over Ethan Page in a 60 match here. So did pretty well on this one, and I think we had this set up as, just a regular match. And kind of your finish here just to sort of set up going into this TNT title match. Wardlow, just this guy who's been on a dominant run and now takes on the champion, Scorpio Sky. And that will be one of our big matches for Road Rager on Saturday. So that wraps up Rampage. Rampage gets a 65, increases our popularity in 7 regions, and I'd love to have more segments here, but there's only so much time we have to work with on a 1-hour show. But again, I was really surprised by the Red Dragon and Dark Order match. That was a very good 72. That exceeded expectations for sure. But still, there's a lot we have in the works here. And like I said, you've even got stuff with Kingston and Jericho, Statlander, Mercedes Martinez, some of the other stuff we have going on. It's just a matter of finding somewhere to put it on the shows each week. So we're working on that. And now let's see what we need to get to. Before we wrap up, we'll also look at quick thoughts on our developmental and some changes we made there with our official booker and owner in place. And we'll also quickly talk about the Road Rager card for Saturday. All right, so Dynamite, we struck gold with that. That was a great show. We got a lot of notes here. CM Punk, the catchphrase. We mentioned that was part of on Dynamite as well, as the new catchphrase and one of his big ones that he's going to have moving forward. We talked about Matt Jackson inventing a new move. I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised that Matt Jackson has invented a new move. So AEW Rampage gets a great show here for that one. Let's see what's going on in NXT. I'm not really worried about NXT. Let's be honest. Cora Jade and Wendy Chu. I'm not worried about that tag team there. And it looks like Rhea Ripley is rising. One to watch. Trust me, if I could sign Rhea Ripley, I would sign her right now to our AEW roster. But that is not going to happen given her contract situation. Let's look here at some of the people I had shortlisted. Bandito is going to extend his deal with ROH. Jonathan Gresham extends with WXW there. Mark Briscoe extending as well. So that's just kind of your look at some of the people extending deals there. Dynamite gets a 1.45. Rampage gets a 0.88. And so that is our mail. Here's a quick look at what we decided on our developmental. And listen, guys, I said I was going to put it to the people. You guys could vote and let me know what you thought. The votes came in, and everyone voted. Not everyone, but the majority voted that they wanted to see Shane McMahon running OVW, our developmental company. He was available. He was willing to negotiate. He had the best business skill of anyone on our potential candidates list. And so we have officially plugged in on McMahon in AEW as Shane McMahon is running OVW as our CEO. And then we put Don Callis as our booker. So, again, I realize the realism may not be there. Although, as I keep saying, as this stuff in reality goes on with Vince McMahon and everything, maybe Shane's wanting to get away from everything. Maybe he wants to make the move to AEW. Now is the time. And so we have plugged him in as our CEO. How could that change the landscape of our save moving forward? Maybe Shane comes in and he's just, he's going to try to screw us over at every opportunity. Or maybe we just, we get at the point to where WWE, a total takeover, and we'll see what happens. But yes, it's official. Shane McMahon, Don Callis, that is our leadership team for OVW. So there you go. And there you have it. There is Dynamite and Rampage. Speaking of upcoming events, we have Road Rager. And, of course, we've got several big matches set up. We know our main event is going to be CM Punk and FTR taking on the House of Black. We've got Wardlow challenging Scorpio Sky for the TNT title. We have another, big match, Miro going up against Orange Cassidy. We've got the tag team title match. Starks and Hobbs, Team Taz challenging Jurassic Express for the tag team titles. So those are sort of the big matches that we have set up for Road Rager. There will be more added to it as well, but those are kind of your featured attraction matches that we will have for this show on Saturday. So there you go. There is Dynamite and Rampage for week 3, and on our next episode, it will be all about Road Rager, as that is going to be kind of our special event here for June. And for now, be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I appreciate you guys. Great feedback thus far on this series. You guys seem to be enjoying it. And, as I always say, check out the WWE 2021 series if you're into that. Be sure to check that one out as well. But on the next episode of our AEW Save, it is Road Rager.